Good day, and welcome to the Impact Show with your host, Samuel I Can Win, It Can Win. And guys, let me tell you, today's show, episode 46, I'm looking so forward to the content we're going to be sharing with you. In this specific show today, we're going to be sharing with you about a fire sale that you don't want to miss. We're going to be talking to you about how a whole council can decide to start selling off properties in a way that is kind of close to unheard of. So if you're ready to go, let me see in the comments the comment ready to go, and I will know that you guys who are tuned in today with us live are ready to go. Side by side with that, if you're someone who's brand new to the show, you've never been on the Impact Show before, then let us know. Just write the word new in the comments and we will know that you are new to the show. Now guys, let me tell you something. Today's show, episode 46, is slightly different, and I'm going to go through a little bit as to why it's slightly different. Part of the reason today's show is slightly different is because today's show comes off the back slightly in the middle of a program that I'm actually running on my personal channel. So I've been running a personal YouTube channel for a number of years now with my wife and my children. And today we were doing day 9 of a 14-day process talking about purpose. And it's interesting because as I've been engaging with that on my actual family channel, it's got me in a headspace. It's got me in a place where I've started to think about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and how I'm offering value, even in regards to the whole property space and what I do in property. And as a result, what I've decided to do, I've said to the team, is we're going to start inviting more and more guests onto the Impact Show so you guys can get even more value, starting to understand a little bit more about not only how you can invest in property, but some of the strategies some of the people out there who are actually winning as it pertains to investing in property are actually using. And I think that's going to be of extreme benefit to those of you who are our viewers. Now, if you haven't already hit the like button and you're already getting value, hit that like button, press subscribe. Side by side with that, hit the bell notification and press all so you can keep up to date with every single time we drop a video on this channel, and side by side with that, every single time we decide to go live, just like we are now. Now, this is the Impact Property channel. On this channel, this is where you get creative property investing on demand. I'll say that one more time. On this channel, this is where you get creative property investing on demand. Let me lift up my seat a little bit. I feel like I'm a little bit lower than usual. Let's go up. Beautiful. So as mentioned, this is the Impact Properties channel where you get creative property investing on demand. On this channel, we have videos, pre-recorded videos, as well as live videos where we have helped the community to move forward through their property woes and through their property troubles in order for them to strategize through all sorts of strategies, through all sorts of drama, using strategies that can basically help them move further faster. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how we got here, because if you are brand new to the channel, you've never tuned in before, you don't know what we're doing here, I'm going to give you a little insight into how we actually got here. Now, last year, in the beginning of last year, 2020, I was hosting one of the largest networking events in the whole of the UK. We would have roughly around 100 plus people attend our networking event every single month, back to back. And basically what happened is we had our March meeting, as we do, and straight after the March meeting, the announcement was made around lockdowns. The announcement was made around the pandemic, and all of that information started to come out. The moment that information started to come out, there was nothing we could do, but we had to stop having our live events. We had to stop having our live networking events. And I went from a position of seeing 100 people every single month or more coming up to me, maybe 20, 30, 40% of those people, 40 people, lines of 30, 40 people asking me questions about their property journey at the end of every event, to nobody being able to do that live. But what basically happened as a transition to that is I had people reaching out to me on WhatsApp, people reaching out to me on Facebook, people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, people reaching out to me on Messenger, people texting me, sending me all manner of messages, calling me, saying, Samuel, I've got this challenge, I don't know what to do. Samuel, I'm going through this in my property journey, I don't know what to do. Samuel, how do I circumvent this? How do I get around this? Etc, etc, etc. And these were the kind of myriad of questions that we were being asked on a day-to-day basis as it pertains to people's property journeys. And my whole thing was, look, how can I help these people move further, faster in their property journey? How could I help these people no longer have to go through the storm that they were going through as a direct byproduct of the pandemic, as a direct byproduct of all of the other things that were associated with the pandemic that were basically taking place for these particular property investors. And the idea basically came to me. I said to my team, look, what can we do in order to help them? And the team said, look, this is what we can do, Samuel. We can show up on a regular basis in order to add value to the community, helping them to understand how they can strategize through the storm. And thus this show, the Impact Show, was actually born. And when this show was first born last year in March, it was first born as strategy in the storm. And the reason why is because that was the primary focus, to help you guys strategize through your property storm that was created as a byproduct of what was going on in the particular climate. But then we got to a place where we started to see more and more people tuning in, more and more people hitting subscribe, more and more people becoming a part of our community. So we said to ourselves, well, you know, what are people long term going to be getting out of this engagement? What are people going to be getting as a long term byproduct of being on our channel? And we started to realize what people were actually learning from all of the strategy we were sharing with each of the callers that would call in, each of the people that were commenting, each of the people that would ask questions. What people were actually getting was an insight into how to effectively and successfully invest in property. And it was with that we kind of shifted the show and said, okay, look, guys, we are going to continue to help people to strategize through the storm, but the show should now also probably be called How to Invest in Property, because that's what we're actually giving people the keys to do. Now, look, you might be a very advanced property investor. You might have been investing in property for a number of years. Let me tell you something. This channel is going to show you how to do that creatively. So that's going to supercharge your property journey. Now, you might be someone who's starting out from scratch. You're right at the beginning. You're saying to yourself, you know what? I want to get into property. I just don't know how to do it. I want to get into property. I don't have money. Listen to me. This is the channel, as I said before, where you get creative property investing on demand. We are going to give you the tools, the tips, the strategies in order for you to utilize, for you to be able to invest in property, even if you do not have much money. Now, let me say this because I think this is a great point to share this. And yes, it's a plug, but it's going to help you. At the end of this video, if you have not seen our video about no money down property deals, I would encourage you, I would implore you to go and watch that video. The minute this live stream ends, the minute you do not have access to me to ask me these questions live via the chat, via the phone system, etc., I would encourage you to go and watch that video, How to Invest in Property with Little or No Money. The title of the video, I believe, the proper title of the video, I believe, is called No Money Down Property Deals. But go and find that video on our channel and watch that video. For those of you who are watching this on a replay who are not with us live, link in the description. How to Invest in Property with Little or No Money. Now, the reason I wanted to share that just to get us started is because I know that there's people who are new tuning into our channel all of the time. And if you are new, let us know. Just write in the comments in the live chat, NEW, so we know you're new and we can welcome you. Now, if you're someone who's been here before, again, you know what to do. Jump in the chat, let us know, been here before, and we can welcome you back to another episode of the Impact Property Show. Now, let me just have a quick look in the chat. Let me see if anyone's here already, showing up, letting us know that they're here. And then right after we do that, we are going to jump into tonight's content. Tonight's content is going to be extremely interesting because some of the things we're going to be sharing with you guys, I don't know if you're ready for, okay? But this is the way that property works, and you have to be ready in order to take advantage of the opportunities that show up when they show up. All right, so I don't have anyone who's being friendly in the chat right now. I've got quite a few people who are actually viewing, but it doesn't say that anybody is actually commenting yet. But don't forget to leave a comment and say hi, just like it says right here on this particular banner. Don't forget to leave a comment and say hi. Guys, this is a channel where we want to build a community of people who can work together, who can help each other move further faster in their property endeavors. So again, don't be shy and don't forget to say hi. So let's jump into the disclaimer for the show. And straight after we go into the show's disclaimer, we're going to go straight into sharing some appreciation before we move forward into today's episode. So, disclaimer: all information provided and results given are exemplary. Each person's results may vary or differ. Results are based on consistent implementation of strategies, and we advise, yes, we advise that you always seek legal and financial advice from a qualified professional. Now, if you're one of those people who are tuning into this show for the first time and you've struggled to find qualified professionals, you struggle to find people who can help you move further faster in your property investing journey, let us know. Okay. And as you let us know, we can connect you with the right brokers. We can connect you with the solicitors. We can connect you with all of the people you need in order to make sure you can get that qualified financial and legal advice from a professional. All right. So hopefully that helps everyone. Now, I mentioned a moment ago, I want to share some appreciation, and that's because we are growing. Our channel's growing daily, okay? People are hitting that subscribe button, people are hitting the like button, and therefore people are finding this content more and more. And I just want to appreciate you guys. If you're someone who's ever watched one of our videos, if you're someone who's ever pressed like for any reason, if you're one of the people who've hit subscribe already, if you're one of the people who hit the bell and say, you know what, you want all the notifications, I want to appreciate you. The reason I want to appreciate you is because the channel would not grow without you. The channel would not get another subscriber without you. It's because of the people that currently watch our content and show the YouTube algorithm, the YouTube world, that this content is of value, that YouTube continues to push this content to other people and allow other people to see this content for the first time and make their own decisions around whether this content is good for them or not. So I really want to appreciate you if you're one of the people who have engaged in that way, shape or form. Now, additionally, okay, for those people who have participated in contributing to our brand new studio build, we are currently in the process of building out a purpose-built content creation studio, and we opened up an opportunity a number of weeks ago for those of you who are viewing to contribute or to participate in any way that you felt comfortable. Now, one of those ways was through means of donating. We had a number of people who donated funds and actually said, look, I just want to give and help you guys move further faster in terms of your development of the content creation studio. And to all of you people, I appreciate you. I thank you. I'm grateful. And I'm actually humbled that people would say, you know what, let me put my money where my mouth is. Let me invest in seeing these guys have a better studio, in seeing these guys have something purpose built so they can get out of Samuel's office. But you know what? Not only do I appreciate you guys, I also, there you go. I also appreciate those of you who decided to jump on our Amazon wish list by going to the link impactproperties.co.uk/studio build and going onto that wish list and purchasing things in order for us to put inside of the studio. Now, I don't have all of the things here, but I've got a few things next to me. We've got the smart notebooks. One of the 2 smart notebooks that was on the Amazon wish list came through. Guys, we appreciate you. We've got the mouse mats that people bought and sent through. Guys, we appreciate you. And all of the other stuff. I think we've got monitor arms. We've got a whole bunch of stuff. People buy some of the randomest stuff, but it's cool because you guys are contributing to our development, to our growth, and to our purpose-built content creation studio. So I just want to let you guys know I appreciate you. I really, really appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to having that studio where we can create even more content for you and the rest of the community to move further, faster in your property endeavors. So guys, listen, as we go through today's show, I want you to know that I'm highly appreciative of all of those people who have donated in any way, shape or form, all of those people who have participated in any way, shape or form for this channel to move forward, for it to grow in leaps and bounds. Now, if you're someone who's interested in contributing, if you're someone who's interested in participating, just put the letter P for participating in some way or C for contributing in some way, and we can throw out those links to let you guys know that you still have the opportunity to do that. But a great big thank you, okay? I want to start by saying a great big thank you to every single one of you who have decided to do that, because you are showing that not only do you appreciate the content, but you want this content to go to other people as well. So for that, we basically appreciate you. Now, we also in the top of this year, January of 2021, we also had the 21 days of your property investing success. This was a program we put on absolutely for free for the community in order to help them move forward in their property investing journey. If you're someone who missed that, I apologize. If you're someone who's watching this live right now and you were on the 21 days of your property investing success, just throw in the comments something like I was there, and let's see how the community can basically respond to that and see that you were there. But let people know in the chat if you were one of the people who was actually with us on the 21 days of your property investing success. It was an awesome program, in my opinion. If I do say so myself, I will say it again. I felt like it was an awesome program. It was the kind of program that you do not miss, and the kind of program that you go on and share. I got Yogesh in the comments who says, hi Yogesh, great to see you on the show again. Hope you're doing well. Hope all is well with your property endeavors. Also looking forward to connecting with you even more as we go through tonight's show. So guys, I want to say that to you, if you was one of the people who joined us for the 21 days of your property investing success, let us know in the comments. Throw in the comments that you were on the 21 days and let us know how you found it. All right, I got Yoga saying you have nearly done a year now of weekly episodes. Yes, Yogesh, you're absolutely correct. We're on episode 46. We've nearly done a whole year back to back of weekly episodes, and we're going to keep going. We're actually even going to be doing a lot more. One of the things I shared earlier on in the show, Yogesh, I'm not sure if you was with us at that point, was that I've been basically doing some stuff on my family channel, and from the stuff I've been doing on my family channel on YouTube, it's really helped me kind of really reflect on what we're doing here on the Impact channel. And as it's been reflecting, I basically said I want to give a lot more value on this channel, and in order to give a lot more value on this channel, one of the things we're going to be doing is inviting a lot more guests on the show. So again, Yogesh, thank you ever so much for your comment, appreciate that. We got Osei Kimon in the chat who says hello Yogesh and all. Guys, like I said, you know, the chat is the place for the community to meet, to greet, and to do what they do and speak. So guys, if you are part of this community, let it be known in the chat. Just say the words hi, and people will greet you, people will meet you, and people will connect with you on your property investing journey. Now guys, we've got so much to go through. Like I said, I'm gonna do what I usually like to do early right now. Thank you to those of you who have already hit like. Thank you to those of you who are not subscribed, who have hit subscribe. We appreciate you all connecting with the channel in the way you're connecting with the channel. This is why we're here. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open up the phone lines early right now. Reason being is I want that open so I don't have to think about it. And the moment after we open up the phone lines, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into today's news article. So yep, there it goes. Phone line is open now. So if you're interested in calling in, if you've got specific issues going on in your property journey, if you've got specific challenges that you would like to kind of unravel, uncover, get to a better place and get to a better space, feel free to call through on the telephone number. The telephone number is 0330-606-0403, and the access code is additionally at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to utilize that in order to call through if you have specific property challenges. Now, whilst that's on the screen, I got Simply I Can Win who jumps into the chat. I believe that's the missus. She says good evening all. She's greeting every single person in the house. So we got the highs popping off. We got Yogesh popping off with his high. We got Osei Kimwin popping off with his high. Guys, this is the show. So let's jump in with today's news article, because like I said to you, today's news article is kind of like the first thing I want to jump into. It is interesting. And for someone like Yogesh, I think this is actually going to be something that relates. So let's load up the chat below as well. All right. So Yogesh is based near Croydon. I know Yogesh is based near Croydon, so this might be something of interest to him. But guys, this is an article that I came across earlier on this week, and I just thought this was fantastic. I thought it had to be shared. This is an article that was written by Inside Croydon. And I just thought, you know what, with these kind of things going on, more people need to know about it. Okay. But the issue is things like this happen all the time. All right. But we live in a world where not necessarily everybody finds out about these things. Not necessarily everybody is aware of what's really going on when these kind of things happen. So this is my job. You know, my job is to bring this stuff to the fore. My job is to share this stuff with you guys in order for you guys to be equipped and know what you need to do when you are basically dealing with these kind of things in your own property journey. Hopefully it's going to load up again properly and we should have no problems. I've actually sussed what the issue was in previous weeks. So hopefully this is something that we can get sorted very quickly. And Simply I Can Win, I see your comment. Good evening all. All right, so let's see if we can jump into this article. This article is going to be quite interesting for a number of the people who are viewing tonight's show, but maybe even more so for a few of us who are actively investing in the Croydon area or areas around there. I've got the team telling me we've got a caller coming in as well. If that caller could just hold on for a moment whilst we load up this specific article, and then maybe jump into it, jump into the call just before we jump into the specific article. Okay, let's see if we can do that. Let's load it back up. Hopefully this way is a little bit better. Yes, we got it the way we want it. All right, cool. So let's jump straight in. All right, I'm gonna read this. This was actually published 8 days ago. 8 days ago, so fairly relevant, fairly new. This is what the article says. It says council starts the biggest fire sale ever seen in South London. I'm going to read that one more time, because for some of you, you read that, you heard that, but you're thinking in your head, is that for real? Like a council selling off properties? Like, is that really for real? Let me tell you something, guys. Yes, it's really, really, really for real. The Croydon Council have actually been earmarked as selling off a whole load of properties because of financial mismanagement. So let's jump into it. I don't want to use the term financial mismanagement, but because they've been unable to do what they need to do as it pertains to their specific property regiment. So let's jump into it. It says council starts the biggest fire sale ever seen in South London. Croydon in crisis is the subtitle. It goes on to say, last night's cabinet meeting agreed to flog off 15 sites around the borough as the council seeks to pay down its £1.5 billion debt, but they will struggle to recuperate the £35.7 million paid for a hotel just 3 years ago by Stephen Downs. Let's see the article and what it says. It says the council was given the green light to flogging off the Croydon Park Hotel, potentially at another massive loss to the bankrupt borough's coffers, as it begins probably the biggest fire sale ever seen in South London. The council's 2018 purchase of the 4-star hotel at East Croydon has proved to be hugely controversial, not least because the council leadership authorised paying £5 million above, please hear this again, £5 million above the asking price of the site's freehold. For the site's freehold. The owners of the 210-room hotel had it on the market at £25 million. Sources in the property business suggest it was being offered to potential buyers in early 2018 for £18 million. In July 2018, Tony Newman, the then council leader, and Simon Hall, the finance chief, pushed through a decision at cabinet which saw the council buy the hotel for £35.7 million, including VAT. Their commercial property policy under which this purchase was made would not be agreed by the full council until October 2018. So you can see here in July 2018, when they decided to actually buy this property, it wasn't an agreed thing. It wasn't an agreed thing. I see Yogesh's comment. Yogesh said, I didn't even know this. Must be opportunities here on my doorstep. Glad I tuned in today. Yogesh, yes, it's good. It's a good thing you tuned in today because we're talking about your specific patch. And this is the funniest thing. Like I say this all of the time. Those of you who are with us when we had the show where we invited our first guest, Paul Robertson, again, who's a mortgage broker, a property investor. One of the things we spoke about is there are deals everywhere. I say this all of the time. There are property deals everywhere. Those of you who haven't seen the video that we recorded on the channel, are there still property deals in London? There are deals everywhere. The question is, do you know how to find great property deals? And this is the reason we do our Monday Masterclass every single Monday at 8 p.m. to help people understand how to find great property deals and take advantage in this current climate right now. So let's keep going. It says in July 2018, I'm going to read this paragraph again. In July 2018, Tony Newman, the then council leader, and Simon Hall, the finance chief, pushed through a decision at cabinet which saw the council buy the hotel for £35.7 million, including VAT. Their commercial property policy under which this purchase was made would not be agreed by the full council until October 2018. So it took a whole quarter for the rest of the council to basically agree on this, or the commercial property council to actually agree on this purchase. Let's keep going. It says last year, speaking of 2020, auditors Grant Thornton in their report in the public interest stated the council's approach to borrowing and investments has exposed the council and future generations of taxpayers to significant financial risk. Now, some of you who have been reading the general news out there have seen that there's a lot of talk about the upcoming budget in March and the conversations that are going to be happening in terms of Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and the different people in policy. Now, one of the big conversations taking place right now is around tax, and is there going to be an increase in tax because of a lot of what has been taking place in terms of bounce back loans and all of the other things that the government has allowed to ease in terms of the financial constructs. Now, this is the funniest thing because this is talking about a specific borough. This is saying there's a specific borough which has gone out of their way to spend money in a silly way, not really investing, maybe thinking they're invested. The reason I'm laughing, again, guys, I'm not trying to laugh at anyone's calamity. The reason I'm laughing is because I find it funny how a council does this, because I see normal people do this all the time. I see normal people who have some funds. Let's say they've just inherited 100,000. They've just sold a house and liquidated 100,000. I see normal people do this all the time. They come into money and they assume because they have the cash, they know how to invest. Okay. I want to encourage you to understand this. Having cash doesn't mean you know how to invest. Okay. And if you want to test me on this, if you want to check Samuel I Can Win, if you want to say, you know what, Samuel doesn't know what he's talking about. Yes, I've got cash. cash, but I know how to invest. Let me say something to you to help you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Firstly, if you haven't hit that like button. If you're getting value already, press subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can stay up to date with all of the things that we share on the channel when we go live. Now, here's how you check if Samuel's right or wrong. Go and look at the statistics, okay, of people who have won the lottery, okay? Because I'm saying to you that having money is not evidence that you know how to invest money, okay? I'm going to say that again. Having money, this is the kind of thing you write down, you go tweet, put this on Twitter, put this on Facebook, hashtag Samuel I Can Win. Having money is not evidence that you know how to invest money. Okay, there are millions. Let me even go further. There are billions of people who have money. Okay, but there are not billions of people who know how to invest money. The evidence is the change in life that will take place if you understand how to invest. Okay, having money is not an evidence that you know how to invest money. I know people that have been burnt in property, and I'll say that again. I know people that have been burnt in property. Why? Because they had cash, came into cash, but didn't know how to invest money. They didn't know how to invest. Property investing is different to property ownership. Okay, I talk about this all the time. It's one of my slogans everybody knows me for. Property investment is different to property ownership. Now, this is part of the reason why these shows that we do on a Saturday say how to invest in property, because investing in property is different to owning property. The council owned property. This is what the article's saying. The article's saying the council were interested in owning property. So what did they do? They went out there and bought property. But owning property is not the same as investing in property. And they thought they were investing, but obviously they were not. I'm going to read that paragraph again for you to understand exactly what I'm talking about. It said last year, auditors Grant Thornton, in their report in the public interest, stated the council's approach to borrowing and investments has exposed the council and future generations of taxpayers to significant financial risk. Let me tell you something. If your approach to investment is putting you and the future generation at financial risk, you're not investing. You're probably not invested. You're probably just spending, okay? Because it's ludicrous spending. It's ill-planned spending that puts people at financial risk, not intelligent investing. I'll say that again. It's ludicrous spending that puts people at risk, not intelligent investing. Okay, let's keep going. Intelligent investing allows you to build generational wealth for you and the generations to come to benefit from, not for people to increase taxes from. Okay, so let's keep going anyway. It goes on to say there was not, this is a quote, there has not been appropriate governance over the significant capital spending and the strategy to finance that spending. Okay, so basically the way that they were buying was irresponsible, and equally what was more irresponsible, it states here, is the way they were thinking about how to pay for the assets they were buying, how they were financing it, the kind of leverage they were getting from banks. Because this is the funniest thing. You see, it's different for a council when they say we want a loan of X amount million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, 30 million in order to buy a hotel than it is for an investor. An investor has to show clearly how this money is going to go to work, how this money is going to be of benefit, how this money is not only going to help them, but help other people in terms of the stakeholders involved, whether it be the bank, etc., etc. You see, the government, the council doesn't have to show to that level of scrutiny. And this is why they've walked away with this money, got into these deals, and now the stuff has to be sold. So it says, Newman, Hall, the deputy leader, Allison, Butler used guillotine procedures at council, which, as Grant Thornton described it, meant there was insufficient time to discuss and challenge the strategy. Okay, so basically it was a cutthroat approach. It was, look, this is what we're doing, guys. We've got to get this done. Bringing these ideas bringing these ideas in at the end of meetings where people can't challenge them, where people couldn't go out of their way to really read the paperwork and say, look, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. As a result, they got it over the line. Okay. One challenge to the strategy might have been to have carried out due diligence on the company operating the hotel, who were to become the council's tenants. In 2018, their business was already struggling. The company which operated the hotel went bust last summer, leaving no one to pay rent to the council. Now, obviously, any smart investor knows if you have a tenant who's not paying rent, what does that leave you with? It leaves you with a bill. And the question is, if you didn't think about that before, you would not have been able to get that money in the first place. But it seems the council were able to get that money regardless of the fact that the tenants that they took on, who were the previous owners, were already in some kind of financial challenge. But they got into the deal anyway. Let's keep going. Last night, a virtual cabinet meeting, this was on the 19th. Last night, a virtual cabinet meeting agreed it was time for the council to cut its losses and flog off the hotel and another 14 sites for those of you who are like me, involved in commercial to residential property opportunities. Hashtag Yogesh, hope you're listening, around the borough to help pay down the council's debt and reduce its costs. The sale of the hotel site, the meeting was told, should go through by September. Guys, it's February. Okay, you got 7 months to work on this. Jose Ali, the council's interim director of homes and social investment, described the choice of properties to be flogged off as quick wins at the start of the process. Okay, and again, you've got to bear in mind this, guys, because people don't realize this. This is coming from people who don't invest in property. So when they say it's a quick win, a lot of the time what they mean is, this is 30 million. If I sell this for around 29 million, we've done good. This is 5 million. If I can get rid of this and get somewhere close to the number around millions, I've done good. Guys, this is a great opportunity for budding investors to step up right now. Okay, it goes on. With COVID-19 laying waste to the hotel industry, it seems highly likely that the council will seek interest from developers who want to build residential blocks to the Croydon Park Hotel's town centre site. The appendix to the official report last night laid out 5 options considered for the future of the hotel, including finding a new operator or converting the building into temporary or emergency accommodation. Guys, I'm going to stop there. We got a caller on the line, but side by side, guys, I want to jump into this. Okay, I want to jump into this with 2 hands and let you guys know my thoughts on this. So guys, if you've got thoughts on this article, I would love to see them. The council starts the biggest fire sale ever seen in South London. Let me know your thoughts on this. Yogesh has already thrown his thoughts in there. He said he's based near Croydon. He didn't even know this was taking place. Guys, this is the power of being an investor in the right community. You start to hear things that you can utilize in order to move forward and further faster. Now, let me see if I can get this done. Should be able to get this done right now. Guys, it's serious. It's serious. Let me know your comments, guys. Let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts about this specific article in the chat. Let me know your thoughts, guys. All right. Whilst we do that, I'm going to load up the caller. I believe the team will be able to put the caller through. It's Yogesh. I can see that it's Yogesh on here. So let's unmute Yogesh and get him on tonight's show. Guys, I want to know your thoughts as well. So if you're watching this and you can see what's going on with the council, let me know, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are in regards to exactly what the council are going through. All right. Good evening, Yogesh. Can you hear me on the phone? Okay. I haven't got Yogesh coming through yet. Let's see if we're going to get this through. Excuse me. Yogesh, you are live on the phone. You'll need to say something, but you are definitely live. Feel free to let me know, Yogesh, if you can hear me on the phone. Good stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to hear Yogesh in a moment or two. Okay, I can see that Yogesh is actually talking. Yogesh, are you there? Excellent. Yogesh can hear me all clear. Absolutely perfect. Your call's slightly cutting, Yogesh, but I can definitely hear you. Yogesh, as I usually ask, I think you know the drill by now. Are you happy for the YouTube world to hear exactly what you're going to be asking me? And side by side with that, are you happy for them to hear what I'll be sharing with you in terms of my thoughts, in terms of how I would potentially approach whatever questions you're going to ask me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. That is absolutely awesome. So with that being said, let me see if I can get your audio on for everybody to hear you also, which I think should be done now. Yes, we're good. All right. So Yogesh, go for it. Share with me how we can help you, and I will reiterate your question and share it also with those who are listening in, just in case they can't hear you.
Thank you for letting me ask questions.
Most welcome, Yogesh.
Property prices. But before I go into that, okay, and electrical safe. I'm getting through this because the deadline's coming up, and I have a few electricians quote for things like rewiring, new fuse boxes, everything being introduced into the property, and they're like £2,000 or more.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering, is there a way to check if there's genuine costs that need to be done, or they're just being a bit incautious? Is there a way to find out if that's genuinely required for the regulations or not? I'm not an electrician, so I don't understand, but I just wondered.
Okay.
It's a grey area, and if the words checking with,
All right.
get my opinion about it.
Okay, powerful. So Yogesh, just to clarify, because the phone was cutting out a little bit at the beginning of your question, I believe you said, if I'm not mistaken, that you're currently in the process with one of your properties of getting the electrical certification certificate done because it's coming up to its expiry. And you were saying that from asking one or two electricians to look into it, they're now saying to you, you need to rewire the house, etc., and all of these other jobs they're asking for cost £2,000 and in there and abouts. Is that a good summary of what you were asking? Well, the question you asked off the back of that is there a way to find out if what they're charging you is the appropriate cost? So did I hear everything correctly?
In my mind, the more they think you need, the more they can earn. So, how do you balance that up with an objective, fair, and honest opinion? Like a bit like we don't charge in the NHS, but in America, you charge when you go to see a doctor, and the more things you pick up, the more you can charge. So
that's right.
It might be excessive. I wondered how you make sure you get an honest answer from people.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So thank you for adding that additional bit as well, Yogesh. I think you gave us some context that is personal to my heart. But yeah, I really appreciate that. So guys, if you can hear Yogesh, you would have heard what he asked. If you can't hear Yogesh, I'll just reiterate the additional part he said. Guys, those of you who are tuned in, let me know if you can hear Yogesh. Hear him loud and clear. We can hear Yogesh, etc. Throw a comment in the live chat so we know that you can hear Yogesh too. Yogesh basically added on and said, look, in America, obviously being a doctor, Yogesh said, in America, in the medical profession, the more illnesses and sicknesses a person has, the more you can charge, because obviously it's all about medical insurance in America, where it's not in the UK. And as a result, some people end up with cancer when they don't really have cancer, just because obviously there's services that can be applied in that sense. Whereas here, Yogesh is saying specifically for the property he's dealing with, he's trying to get a certain job done, i.e. the certification for the electricals done, but he's being told by multiple different electricians, oh, you need this done, you need that done. And like he said, the more things they say you need done, the more obviously of a bill they can charge. So Yogesh's question effectively at the heart of this is, how do you know what is the reasonable amount of work that needs to be done? And how do you know that obviously that specific tradesman is telling you the truth? Now, I'm going to be very, very sincere about my answer with this, Yogesh, in order to help you understand how I look at this. Basically, one of the things I try to do with all of the trades that I know I need on a regular basis is I try to build as quickly as possible a power team. And the reason why is because the moment I've got people who are considered as part of my power team is the moment I know I've got someone who I actually trust who's going to be carrying out that work. And I'm going to be very honest with you. If one of the members of my power team from, let's say, our gas safety engineer from our power team tells me, look, Samuel, you need to get this done. You need a new boiler. I'm just saying, okay, I need a new boiler. Because what I do is I invest the time up front, making sure that this is the right relationship so that when the person starts doing the work later on, I don't have trust issues. Now, obviously the challenge comes when you don't have a specific power team when it comes to getting certain works done, certain building works done, etc., because now when you ask someone, okay, can you come and have a look to give me an electrical certificate, they might turn around and say, well, yeah, we do want to charge you as much as possible because there's no incentive to working with you. After doing this job for you, we might be gone and you will never hear from us again and we'll never hear from you again. Now, for me, one of the things you can do moving forward, Yogesh, is these specific electricians you're speaking to, speak to them about the rest of your portfolio. Speak to them about your contacts in property. Let them know that you're not just a person who owns one property who wants to do an electrical certification on that one property and will never hear from them again. But you're actually interested in potentially working with them on a long-term basis for the other properties you've got when they need certificates as well. You're also interested in getting them maybe potential referrals where they could work with other people that you know in your obviously property network as well. So the reason I'd encourage you to do that is even if you're not going to take them on board as a member of your property power team, by doing the things I've just mentioned, you put yourself in a great space for them to now see that you're worth more than what they're going to overcharge you in that specific predicament. And usually that tends to help either lower the price or secure someone who could potentially be in your power team. So I hope that helps, Yogesh, in terms of your question.
Yeah, it does, but that takes time, doesn't it? But I agree, the relationship's probably the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'll work on that a bit more. I've got a wider question.
Go for it.
Maybe in two parts about property prices. So I'm getting mixed opinions, and so maybe you might, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but it seems to be like in London, prices seem to be dropping a bit, or it's harder to sell properties, whereas outside London, particularly north, west, Manchester, Birmingham, they seem to be going up, or things seem to be selling more quickly than they would do. Is that what you reflect from your network, or do you reflect something different? Because I've all had people going up, and it really depends which bit of London.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your sense on it because you've got quite a wide reach.
That's a good question. What I would say is over the last few months, the way I've been basically seeing the market, I would say it to you as I don't call it about prices going up, prices going down, because the way a market works, we have price increases, we have price decreases, and we also have like what we call a lulling market or a stagnating market. So what you've just described to me wouldn't be a price decrease in London. That would be a stagnating market. So for example, two key characteristics of a stagnating market: it's now taking longer for the same kind of properties to sell. The second characteristic is they're not achieving the same prices. Now, a price drop, let me give you an example. If a property is 500,000 and next door goes on the market, and next door is exactly a carbon copy, next door goes on the market 6 months later, and the first property sold in 2 months, the second property doesn't sell for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, but still basically reaches 499, 500, 501. To me, that's not an indication of a falling market. That for me is an indication of a stagnating market, because the prices are taking longer to be achieved, and they're roughly still achieving around the same ballpoint figure. But when we see something that's usually 500,000, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, selling for 480, selling for 450, that's where for me, I'd say, okay, hold on a minute. It looks like this is a trend here where the property prices are dropping. So it's all about the level of significance before we determine a decrease in prices. We've got KTR in the chat. She says, hiya KTR, great to have you on the stream. So what I'd say to you, Yogesh, is try to ask yourself, okay, what do you determine as a price decrease and a price increase? Now, from my network and my community, what I think I've been seeing happen over the last quarter since we've entered into January is what we call a money movement. And generally this happens every now and then. If you look at the property market as a cycle, what generally happens as part of that cycle is there's a season every single cycle where there's money movement. And that money movement basically means you start seeing the main highlight spots like London, for example, stagnating in terms of sales. You won't see sales closing as quick. You won't see property prices increasing as much as they do. And whilst those prices stagnate, other areas such as the Birminghams, the Manchesters, the Midlands, you know, those kind of places, they slightly start to increase in their price. And people think a lot of the time, oh, that means Manchester's booming, that means Birmingham's booming. A lot of the time it doesn't if you look at the metrics properly. Sometimes what it actually means is there's just a movement of money. A lot of people that would potentially be buying in London say, hold on a minute, why don't I go and get 2 for the price of 1 by buying in Birmingham? Why don't I go and get 3 for the price of 1 by buying in Manchester? And so on and so on. And I think that's really what's happened. If you look at where we are right now, we're in Q1 of 2021. We're off the backdrop of 2020, which for many people was probably the worst year of their financial life. And if you think about what happened in 2020, a lot of people spent time online getting new information from online resources, which means their information base over 2020 is much broader and wider than it probably usually would have been any other year prior to that. Now, again, this is me speculating, but what I would say is if you think about a country like the UK or a country like England, and let's just take the whole of the UK, okay? If you think about the UK and you say to yourself, well, 10% of people in the UK each year, and again, I'm just making these numbers up for you guys to see exactly what I'm talking about. Imagine if you say throughout the UK, 10% of people in the UK each year are generally invested in property, and generally they're investing a particular way. Now what happens is you spend a whole year being locked down in your house where the majority of information you're receiving is online. Some of those information sources as a result are going to change, and by virtue of that, by a byproduct of the fact that your information sources are changing, the way you go about things, your activity will thus change. So as a result, I believe we've got a lot more people who are looking at going up north to buy property than we did have prior to 2020 because of the fact that their information sources have changed by being online, by hearing more things, by being, I guess, exposed to more broader information. So personally, in this current climate, Q1 of 2021, again, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to probably be dealing with news articles that will be touching on what the news think about this. And again, I'll always share my 2 pence as I usually do. But I personally think from looking at the market in Q1 of 2021 so far that we haven't seen a decrease in price in London as much as we've seen a movement of money. And I think a lot of the what we call old money, sometimes a lot of the money that usually would be going into London is going elsewhere because those people have just had a broader experience over 2020 of where they should be putting their money and why they should be putting their money there. So hopefully that again answers your question in that regard. Yogesh.
But I think you're saying that more in London the prices are still being achieved, but taking longer.
Yeah.
Up north, maybe there's similar prices where they're just being quicker to be sold. I think that's what you're saying.
Agreed. Definitely. And I guess I'll add something onto that. Thank you for that summary, Yogesh. I think that's a really good summary. The thing I'll add onto that, just to be really clear on this as well, is in a market where it takes longer to achieve the same prices, people who are impatient, which is most human beings, because they're keen to get a sell, a lot of the time they will drop prices. And if that takes place too many times, if that takes place concurrently again and again and again in different parts of London, that's one of the key things that can trigger a price reduction in the market. So for example, if in 6 months I would have got 499, but I don't have 6 months to wait, it's not I become a distressed seller or I become a motivated seller, but I'm more inclined to act like a motivated seller when I don't know what the market's going to do. And this is something we've seen again and again in so many of the property cycles in the past. We have people who just can't wait for whatever reason, or they can wait, but they tell themselves they can't wait for whatever reason, and they end up trying to sell quickly. And because they're trying to sell quickly, the key to that is dropping the price. And again, when that happens statistically over a number of times, that now becomes a trend. And the moment that's a trend, we can officially say, look guys, prices have dropped in London, or look guys, prices have dropped in this particular region. But for this current season where we're at right now. Again, let's see what happens in terms of the numbers that come out at the end of next month. But currently, I don't believe I would say that there is a price drop in London as much as there is a stagnation of the London market. And obviously, it makes sense why Yoga said I cut out. Hopefully you can hear me now. But obviously I was going to say it makes sense why there will be a slowdown and a stagnation of the London market. It makes a lot of sense. Part of the reason is because a lot of people are trying to run away from London. You know, as per what occurred in 2020, we're going to have a lot more people who are saying to themselves, why do I want to stay in London? Why do I want to stay in a congested city with, you know, all of the congestion and all of the different kind of things London has when I'm being told to work from home? And again, a lot of this is because people who were renting, you know, there's so many people that were renting, living in London, working in London, who couldn't afford to buy in London. But the moment that they're being told indefinitely you're going to work from home, or the moment they're being told you're going to work from home for at least the foreseeable future, or the moment they're being told you're going to work from home for the next 6 months, those people are now at liberty to go and buy in Manchester, in Doncaster, in Sheffield, in all of these other places, because now they don't have the fear of, well, I have to physically, geographically live in London. So some of those people are going to be at liberty to buy, and they can afford in other places, even though they couldn't potentially afford in London. So hopefully that helps give a bit of a different side of the context as well, for you to think about as well, Yogesh, when you think about, okay, how does this all sit together? You still there, Yogesh? Okay, I think Yogesh has dropped off the line. I've still got him on the phone, but it looks like he's dropped off. So, Yogesh, hopefully that answers your question. I know you're still on the stream, even though you are not on the phone line, it seems, anymore. What I'd say to you, Yogesh, is let us know in the chat how many stars you give us for the first question that we answered, and additionally, side by side with that, how many stars you give us for the second question that we answered. And if you have additional questions, feel free to just call back, or side by side with that, feel free to throw them into the chat. But again, always a pleasure to have you on the show and also on the phone line, Yogesh. All right, guys. So the question is still up. What are the property challenges you are facing? Feel free, guys, to let us know in the chat. What are the property challenges you are facing? Also, the phone line is still open. Feel free to call through 0330 606 0403 if you have specific property challenges, and you can utilize the access code which is on the screen also currently, so you can call in and basically let us know what property challenges you are currently facing. All right, we just had Yogesh call in. Great set of questions Yogesh asked, specifically around how to make sure that the tradesmen he's working with are basically doing the right thing, charging for the right prices and not overcharging. And then side by side with that, additionally, Yogesh was also interested in finding out a little bit more about property prices. I see Yogesh also throwing in another question. Guys, if you are getting value and you haven't hit that like button. Side by side with that, press subscribe if you're not subscribed already to the channel, and hit the bell so you can be notified every single time we go live on the channel, every single time we drop another video. Now, let me take some more of these questions, see what else are the questions in the chat. Yogesh says his last question was, let me see the last question. Okay, Yogesh says here, what are my price predictions in 12 months and why in London? I think, Yogesh, let me just confirm that you're asking what are my price predictions in London and why they are what they are. I think that's the question you're asking. I'm not sure. I get the beginning part. I assume I'm going to answer this question that I assume Yogesh is asking, which is effectively, what are Samuel I Can Win and Kim Win's price predictions on the London market over the next 12 months, and why are my predictions what they are? I believe that's what Yogesh is asking. Yogesh says yes in the chat, so that is exactly what Yogesh is asking. Yogesh, thank you for the clarification. All right, so over the next 12 months, my price predictions is we are going to see a fall in prices in London. This is something I spoke about last year. I think the stamp duty holiday, whether it is extended or not, unless it's extended to the 31st of December, which I doubt is going to happen, but it also equally is a possibility, I believe there is going to be a price drop soon after. It might take a quarter, so we're talking roughly 3 months after whenever this extension on stamp duty holiday is. Now, stamp duty holiday is a perceptionary discount, okay? And I've spoken about this on several of our episodes previously, so I don't really want to go into it. But the stamp duty holiday makes most people who don't really understand how to invest believe that there is a discount on the acquisition of property. And because of that, it keeps demand in the market. And because it keeps demand in the market, as long as there's supply in the market, what happens is prices stay the same. And if the demand reduces, which can happen if too many people are buying, then the next thing happens is prices increase. So as long as we've got this stamp duty holiday going on, and as long as the majority of people aren't finding out the kind of information we share on this channel, then what's basically going to happen is people are going to keep buying, or people are going to keep trying to buy. And if people are going to continue to try to buy, that means in this market of supply and demand, we're going to have demand. And side by side with that, as long as we have supply, we're only going to have price stagnation or price increase if demand reduces. If supply decreases. So my prediction on the 12 months of London market coming from now up until, let's call it February of 2022, is that we will see a price decrease. And I think part of the drivers of that price decrease will be the end of the stamp duty holiday and a few of the tax changes that are going to be announced. I think people are going to become lethargic about property as an industry. I'm already seeing it. I've already been seeing it probably for the last 9 months. I don't know why they are, but I also understand why they might be. Now, think of it like this. Property as an asset class generally is perceived as the biggest brother of most asset classes in the UK or in first world nations. People generally have a perception that in order to invest in property, they need a lot of money, they need big bucks. Now, if people believe that generally, ordinarily, and now you have opportunities coming in the shape and form of cryptocurrency, now understandings of how to invest in the stock market is becoming more readily available. Understandings of how to trade on the forex market are becoming more readily available. With all of this information overload that's been flooding people throughout 2020, and years gone by, what's basically happening for a lot of people is people are getting to a place where they feel like they can find asset classes they can invest in and generate returns, which they don't need to use property in order to do so. Now, the challenge with many of those things, and again, this is something I covered on the 21 days of your property investing success, especially on the especially on the days where we were talking about return on investment, especially on the days we were talking about measuring property opportunities. One of the things I covered is that for most people, what they need to understand is that these assets that they could invest in and that can generate returns, they're not tangible assets. They're not assets where you can force appreciation and so on and so on. All of these things are covered in the 21 days of your property investing success. If that's something you're interested in being a part of or, engaging with that content, it's absolutely free. Again, links in the description. impactproperties.co.uk/day one will take you to the day one video. Now, with all of that being said, my general prediction is that the prices will decrease. In terms of how much, I'm not one of those guys who says this percent, that percent. I do actually believe there'll be a noticeable increase, okay? For anyone who's got any sense of how to look at the numbers, they'll see, okay, look, I used to be able to buy that for 500. Now I can actually pick that up for 465, 480, etc. Please don't use that to create a percentage and say this is the percentage Samuel said, because Samuel's not saying any percentages, but I do believe there'll be a price decrease. That's the first thing. Second thing, in terms of my reason why, I've kind of alluded to that, I guess, Yogesh, I think anyway. Personally, I feel like part of that's going to be the end of the stamp duty holiday. I feel like a few other things are going to contribute to that as well, which we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks on the show and potentially in other spaces as well. One of the guests I'm going to have on next month, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurs and how entrepreneurs need to manage themselves, how entrepreneurs need to surround themselves with the right people, all of this stuff. We're going to be talking about the entrepreneurship, the person behind the property, for us, for you, for me specifically. So when we go into that in March with that specific guest, me and that guest are going to break a lot of those variables down, which will touch on some of the things I'm talking about in today's episode also. So hopefully that will help you. Again, Yogesh, for the free questions, let us know how many stars for each question and each answer. And again, thank you for your question. All right, I think Yogesh has called back in. Just before we take Yogesh's call, I'm going to take this second question from KTR. KTR says it's a rent-to-rent contract question. If it is a JV and both parties have a limited company, do you put both companies' name on the contract? Well, if you are entering that contract as a business, the answer is yes. If you're entering the contract as an individual, the answer is no. Okay, so KTR is all about how you're entering that contract for each party. So if you are going into a joint venture with another rent-to-rent company, and you are a company entity and you want them to come in as a company entity, or they plan to come in as a company entity, then yes, you use both companies' names. If one of you, like yourself, are going in as a company but the other person is going in as an individual, then they would use your company name and their individual name. Okay, so it's all about how you're going in to the specific deal, what is your intention, etc., etc. KTR, let us know in the chat how many stars you give to that answer. But yeah, I think that's fairly straightforward. It's really just about how you're going in. Now, if your question, which I don't think you asked, was what would I recommend, my answer would be I'd recommend you go into it as a company. But I'm only saying this to KTR because I know a little bit about her property business and her property activity. So again, please do not take this as advice for everybody and anybody. This is specifically what I would say to KTR, because she's been one of our coaching clients for over 6 months. So I know a little bit about her property investing business. All right, now with all of that being said, let me switch back and see if I can take Yogesh's question. We have Yogesh who's called back in, so let's see if we can get Yogesh back on the line. Hopefully this will be able to work. Technology and its joys. Yogesh, I have you back on the phone. I don't know if you can hear me. Hi Yogesh, excellent. Got you back right now. So Yogesh, you were cut off. I could hear you, and then after a while I couldn't hear you. I just answered your third question that you sent out about the price predictions over the 12 months, and you said yes. So I assume I answered it correctly, or I answered the right question at least. But go for it, Yogesh. Did you have another question? And KTR, thank you for your 10 stars. I see your 10 stars in the chat. Yogesh, please be sure to rate the answers to your questions once we finish this conversation. But go for it.
Yeah, I've already put 10 stars also.
I love it.
Already that. So yeah, you answered my question. So then I've got the last final thing is recovery. So you're saying probably go down. I was just wondering what you think will spark off recovery. Do you think it's going to be worse than 2009, or do you think worse with Great Recession, or do you think it's not really that bad? I don't know. Where do you think we'll be back to before COVID prices? So,
powerful.
And maybe why? Yeah.
Powerful question. So guys, listen, let me know in the chat if you can hear Yogesh clearly. If you guys can hear Yogesh clearly, let me know you can. Yogesh, I think the question you just asked is an extremely powerful question. If you guys cannot hear Yogesh, just for the sake of it, I'm going to clarify. I'm going to reiterate what Yogesh just asked. And again, I think that's an extremely powerful question. So Yogesh's previous question, his last question was basically, what are my price predictions on the London market over the next 12 months? And why am I making such predictions? I've answered that question already. For those of you who missed that, again, go watch the replay of this video straight after, and you'll be able to hear everything I shared in that regard. Now, Yogesh's current question is a very, very powerful question. What Yogesh is saying as well, if there is going to be a dip in prices, for example, what do I see sparking off the recovery of prices, and when do I kind of earmark prices coming back to the pre-COVID era in that sense? Now, I'm going to answer this question with two parts, two components, because it's effectively two questions anyway. The first question is, what do I see sparking off the recovery of the property market? And I'm going to say this. A market always operates off supply and demand. That's the way markets are. That's the way markets are always going to be. Now, the moment we understand that a market always operates off supply and demand, the question is, what is going to make that relationship change? What's going to make the relationship between supply and demand change? Now, for me, I've said, well, I think the market will react or respond to the end of a stamp duty holiday, because that's something that's going to affect the market in regards to the relationship between supply and demand. If people perceptionally believe there was a discount, but that discount for some reason has been taken away, that's going to reduce the amount of people that are going to go into the marketplace willingly in the same way. So that affects supply and demand. Now, to answer the question, what do I think is going to re-spark the market coming back? Well, I think it's going to be anything that affects supply and demand again. And I think personally, and this is just me giving my view, I think that's going to be the perception of normality coming back. Okay, now that might take 6 months, that might take 8 months, that might take 2 years. Okay, it might take a very long time for people to perceive that things are normal again. Now, again, things don't have to be normal. I want to say this and be very clear about this for people to understand what I'm getting at. Things don't have to be normal. Things can be very different to how they were in 2019. They can be very different to how they were in January, February, and the beginning of March of 2020. But if the main cultural bias is that things are back to normal, or things are the same again, or things are now normal, okay, and this is where a lot of the talk about the new normal has come out. When people are making statements like, oh, there's going to be a new normal, blah blah blah, the point is, it doesn't matter if there's a normality or a new normality, or it goes back to the old normality. What matters in a market is perception. So if people perceive that things are now normal, whether that be because there's a new normal and everyone gets used to it, which might take 2 years, or whether that means things actually look like they've gone back to how they were, which might take 6 months. And these are kind of the not time frames, I would say, but these are kind of what do they call it? What's the statement? These are like earmarks that I would use to relate to those two perceptions. So I think if we've got a whole nation believing things have gone back to normal, that takes a shorter amount of time perceptionally to believe than if we've got the whole nation achieving and receiving a new normal as normal. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. But the point is, whichever ends up happening, whether people perceive it's a new normal and get used to it and say this is now normal, or whether it's people who go back and say, well, no, look, what's happened now is we've all been allowed to go back to work, most people have got their jobs, blah blah blah, then there's not going to be a problem. The perception of normality, I believe, is going to be the first primary driver of people going back into the market. From that relationship of supply and demand changing and people going back into the market, this now has a knock-on effect on the supply and demand relationship, and thus there will then be again an increased demand. Now, again, going back to one of the things I said earlier, I think it's important to share this. Part of that relationship in terms of supply and demand, which might be increased or might be restored, is the simple fact that people start saying to themselves, I don't mind living in London again because I might have to work from my office in London again, for example. So again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying just figuratively, things like that can start to happen in the market again if people perceive they're back to this normality, and so on and so forth. So to answer the first part of your question, what do I think is going to be a driver to the market going back? That's what I think is going to be the primary driver. People receiving a new normal, or people believing that normality has shown up again. That's the first thing. In terms of the second part of the question, I'm trying to remember what it was. Was it how long do I think that's going to take? What was the second part of the question again, Yogesh?
I think things are going to go up. But I've got, talk about normality.
Yes.
Do you not think, even if things are back to normal, do you not think the fact that people already lost their jobs, business closed down and all that stuff, even if COVID goes away, do you not think that kind of impact on businesses already closed down, shut down, would be an issue, even if things stay as normal?
Yes, I do. I do. I think that's a great question as well, a great following question. And personally, yes, I do think those things are going to have an effect. And they're the things I wanted to touch on secondarily with the second part of your question, which I believe was kind of around timeframes, etc. But let's jump into that anyway. But basically, my belief is this. My belief is that many people do not understand how basic economics work. And this is part of the problem when it comes to talking about property investment, because for many people think on a personal level. Now, with economics, there's two layers to it. There's macroeconomics, there's microeconomics. There's the things that happen on the micro scale. There's things that happen on a much larger, bigger scale, which many people don't have their finger on that pulse. So many people who are investing in the UK, they don't really understand what's going on with job retention, job markets, etc., etc. Now, again, I'm gifted in the sense that I have a relationship with a very close family member who's been trading on the Forex market for a number of years. And just as a byproduct of trading on the Forex market, people who are successful Forex traders, they have to have an understanding of when news is being released, when things are taking place on a global level. Now, it's because of my relationship with that family member, my brother, who's basically intricately connected with the market like that, that I end up having a base and a foundational environment where I can talk to other people, not only my brother, but other people about what's happening on the actual major scale. And it's not just about the microeconomics of things, it's actually about the macroeconomics. Now, I say all of that to say this. I don't personally believe, again, as I mentioned earlier, the market is based on perception. It's based on people's perception of how things are going, people's perception on what's going on. And a lot of that in the UK, unfortunately, and I say this word again because I want you to understand my view on it, a lot of that in the UK, unfortunately, is driven by mainstream media. So what that means is when mainstream media put out an article and say the property market is booming, most people in their house say, oh, the property market is booming. When mainstream media put out an article and say property market is busting up, most people in their house say, oh, the property market is busting up. And I don't think that's right. Personally, the reason I don't think it's right is because we've seen over decades, over centuries, how mainstream media many times get it wrong, and not only get it wrong by accident on occasion, many times they get it wrong on purpose. And I think these are some of the challenges that we created this channel for, because we want people to be able to scrutinize mainstream media's narrative of what's going on and be able to see it from a different perspective. Now, again, going back to the primary point of the question you've asked, my heart is that a market is based on supply and demand. I know that demand in the UK is heavily driven by people's perception in the UK of the property market. Now, what we have to get to is all of the things you brought up, Yogesh, which I think are important factors. Businesses that have already imploded, businesses that have already gone bust, people that have already lost their jobs. That all of those things are a reality, but they're only a reality for the people who are first-hand experiencing them when the media are ready to cover it up. Because in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, when the media knows it's not good for business, i.e. the economy that they're trying to protect, to speak about the people that have lost their jobs, to speak about the people or the businesses that have gone under, etc., the media will stop talking about it, and they'll talk more about a virus, or they'll talk more about a vaccine, or they'll talk more about whatever they want to cover at that time. Now, I said in March of 2020 that the UK is going into a financial recession. I said that in March of 2020. Those of you who are with us, I believe Yogesh was with us, KTR was with us, Ose Kim was with us. A lot of you guys who are actually active in the chat right now were with us in March of 2020 when I said this is what's happening in the UK financial market right now. It took the UK until October, until July, to start sharing that in mainstream media with the country, with our nation. That to me is typical of what the mainstream media does in the UK. Now, how did I know that the UK was going into some kind of financial distress, some kind of recession? It was obvious because I look at global markets. I look at what's happening globally, and I say, well, based on what's happening globally, the UK's constructs are the same as all of these other global first world nations. So therefore, their judgment is going to be the same. The predicament's going to be the same. The only difference is in somewhere like France, they might mention it. They might say up front, regardless of all of the noise that's being played out around a virus and around vaccines and around stay at home and lockdowns and all of the other nonsense, they might go out of their way in France to actually say, hey guys, just to let you know, there's a financial recession right now taking place. In the US, again, they might be bold enough on at least some channels to say, look, this is what's happening to the financial market. It's tanking. Guys, we're seeing worse numbers on the financial stock markets than we've ever seen, even as far back as the 1930s when we had the Great Depression, etc., etc. So how that was the second part of your question. I'm going to come on to it. So the second part of Yogesh's question was, how far do I see it going down? Do I see it going down as far as the 2008 recession? Do I see it going down even further, as bad as the Depression, etc., etc.? Now, this marries up with what you've just asked about, do I think there will be an effect in regards to the people who are going through stuff right now, and people who've lost their jobs, you know, businesses that have imploded. And this is going to be my take on it. And again, this is just me sharing my view. And I welcome all other views. I welcome views that are contrary to mine. I welcome views that are the same as mine. I welcome views that are slightly different to mine. Guys, if you've got views, whatever they are, even if they're the same, let us know. Let us know in the live chat. If you're watching this on replay, let us know in the replay in the comment section below. Personally, I believe that the UK do a great job of hiding information, okay? And I'm just going to be very transparent about that. I believe because we live in a first world nation, there seems to be this onus on a hierarchy system, i.e. the government and certain people know what they're doing and everyone else is basically a lemming and they don't know what they're doing. They just need to follow the rhetoric we give them. Now, the problem with that is, you know, we live in a society where there is information overload. So what generally tends to happen is people who know how to seek information, people who know how to look for the information that's relevant and pertinent for them, the data that's necessary, relevant and pertinent for them, they will find that information, they will find that data, and like on channels like this, they will go and share that data with a community. Now, the community might be small, the community might, and I'll say this, I'll throw this out there, I'm not saying it's the case, but the community might be purposefully kept small, for example, because certain people, you know, on the hierarchy understand, well, hold on a minute, if channels like this are really big, then these channels are actually challenging the mainstream narrative. And if they're challenging the mainstream narrative and they get big, then there's an element, again, because markets are based on perception, there's an element of clout that's actually given to that channel because the channel's big. So I'll give you an example. If this channel had 100,000 subscribers, if this channel had 1 million subscribers, what that would mean is that there are 1 million people who potentially buy into the ideologies, to the things being shared on this channel, or who are at least interested in hearing what's being shared on this channel. Now, what does that do for a dying news organization? Okay, like companies or channels like the BBC, the British Broadcasting Network, what does that do for them? Okay, when they're gonna go and do news at 5, but then someone like me is gonna do a live show on Saturday at 6 p.m, take an article that they spoke about in the newspaper, take an article that they spoke about on the TV, and basically tear it to shreds and say, you know what, based on this information, this is not actually true. Based on this information, this is probably not even real. Based on this information, they're not even getting their data from the right place. So the point I'm trying to make in all of this regard, Yogesh, is it's all based on perception. It's not based on truth, which is the saddest thing, but it's the reality in our modern day and age. Now, because it's all based on perception, I just think when mainstream media is ready, they're going to be putting out a whole bunch of articles about vaccines, like similar to what they're doing now. The only problem is they're doing this now pre the end of this stamp duty holiday. So it's not going to have an effect on the property market, maybe the way they want to. But again, this might just be the run up to it. But the point is, when the mainstream media are selling a narrative which is different to people are losing their jobs, people are this, people are that, people are going to buy that narrative because unfortunately many of us are gullible. And straight after we start, and look, let me even share this because I want to take it away from people being gullible, because it's not actually about being gullible. It's actually about how people learn things. Okay, Zig Ziglar, you know, personal development coach, used to say this all the time. He used to say, repetition is the mother of learning. Okay, and I want you to understand, being an ex-educator, working in schools for a number of years, teaching teachers how to teach, I understand that repetition is a key to conformation. If you want people to do what you want, you just repeat the same message again and again until they start repeating it in their subconscious without them even knowing they're repeating it. Okay, that's what news does a lot of the time. So our mainstream media news tells us this is what's happening in the market. That's what's happening in the market. The market is growing. Okay, it's inaccessible for you. So people don't go into the market. This media, our YouTube channel, where you get creative property investing on demand, takes our time and says, no, there's creative strategies you can use. No, there's other ways you can do it. No, you don't need a lot of money. So what we're doing is we're saying a message which is contrary to the mainstream. And because we're saying a message which is contrary to the mainstream, the people that jump involved with us, the people that get connected with us, the people that are contributing, participating, being a part of this channel, they're setting themselves up to be able to do things the mainstream media doesn't want you to do, like become financially independent, like become financially free, like change your generational wealth, like help people around you, rather than be someone who's not into that business. But again, I'm ranting right now, as you can hear. But in simple terms, just to answer your question, Yogesh, I think when the narrative changes on mainstream media, we will see an uptick of the market, and that will be because the perception in the market is that all things are okay. In regards to how low I think the market will drop, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not into the business of giving percentages and stuff like that. I do believe we will see a drop which is similar to 2007 and 2008. Personally, I don't think the drops of 2007 and 2008 were that bad. And I'm not saying it because, oh, that's not that bad. No, it is bad when you own a property and it's reducing in value in a specific area, like up north, and now you're in negative equity. But I don't think we're going to have as many repercussions, because 2007, 2008, one of the things you've got to remember is that came straight after 2006 and 2005. And in those years, 2005, 2006, we had certain financial constructs we don't have anymore, such as self-certification mortgages. So if in 2006, you could walk into a mortgage company and say, look, I can self-certify, I can tell you I can pay this mortgage regardless of my pay slips, regardless of all of that, and you'd give me a mortgage, obviously you have a lot less intelligent investing taking place, if I use that terminology. So because you have a lot less people utilizing intelligent investment, what generally tends to happen is you end up having a lot less people at risk of there being drama, if that makes sense. So I think personally that we're not going to see as much property repercussions as we saw in 2007, 2008, because of the fact that we don't have the backdrop 2007, 2008 had for the property climate, i.e. self-certification mortgages and all of that other stuff. Now, I could go into this stuff, as you can tell. I should probably write a book about my views on this stuff, because this is stuff I'm really passionate about, because I feel as though many of us, many investors are actually tricked into their positions. And when they end up with their back against the wall is when they work out, hold on a minute, this was like a plan which somebody had, but why didn't I see this plan? Well, you wouldn't have seen this plan because you've been taught to not see the plan. So hopefully that makes sense. Yogesh, what's your thoughts on what I've shared? I've shared a lot. What's your thoughts?
That's brilliant. I never thought I'd get such a detailed answer, so appreciate it. So I think what I believe is the vaccinations will work, and I think most will be vaccinated by the later part of this year, and then COVID should be less significant, let's say, and then people will think there's normality again. So if that's what I believe, then I think you've answered my question about when I think it will happen.
Cool.
That's good.
That's powerful, and
Thank you.
that's powerful. Most welcome. You're welcome, Yogesh, and that's powerful what you shared. And I see the synergy between what I've shared and what you've shared. And I think you're right. I think vaccines, which are being heavily promoted right now in the news, may be the key to the perceptionary change. But what I would say, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier about narratives and the mainstream media's narrative not necessarily always being true, is that there is a large group of people, there's a large group of people across the UK who do not want to be vaccinated, who don't want to take a vaccination for the COVID-19. Now, because you work in the medical profession, you will know that what I'm saying is very true. Because I know a number of people who don't want to be vaccinated, I will know that this is very true. But the problem is, mainstream media will never tell you this is true because it's contrary to their agenda. So as a byproduct, mainstream media is going to continue to tell people 20 million target has been hit, 30 million target has been hit, whether it's even hit or not. You see, the thing is, this is not going to be the first time that as a society we've been lied to by mainstream media. So whether it's been hit or not, whether targets have been hit or not, mainstream media have an agenda which is to serve the purpose which the government wants at this current stage of getting as many people vaccinated for this COVID-19 as possible. So because mainstream media have that agenda, that's the message that's going to be pushed. It's positive to get vaccinated, so thus go get vaccinated. And then if you get vaccinated, you can get your normality back. If you get vaccinated, you can travel. If you get vaccinated, you can this, you can that, you can go back to work. Now, the reason they have to add all of those rhetoric on the end is because the group of people who they know don't want to be vaccinated, they want to try and tease them into doing it with bully tactics, i.e., you won't be able to travel if you don't do this, or you won't be able to do this if you don't do this, etc., etc. So there's the mainstream narrative. It works. It's worth it. You should do it. It makes sense. And then there's the sideline narrative of you have to do this, otherwise you're not going to be able to travel, without them saying it. I think we just lost Yogesh from the phone. Yes, we did just lose Yogesh from the phone. Yeah, and so like I was saying, I believe there's the mainstream narrative and then there's the secondary narrative, which they're obviously pushing on mainstream media as well. And I think, again, like you said, I think you might be right. The vaccines may be the way. I guess that that normality is going to be presented to people. It may just be exactly that. So again, all of this stuff, guys, this is a big kind of watch this space. We're going to find out effectively from how people receive what's going on, you know, how things are supposed to be done. So Yogesh, you know, thank you ever so much for your views. Thank you for what you've shared. It's quite insightful to think about how you've added on that additional component of the vaccinations being a key catalyst to normality being perceived. And the thing that's interesting is, if you're right, if the numbers are really as high as we're saying, or as high as you've claimed that they could be, where nearly everybody's vaccinated by the end of this year, then we might actually be in a position where the market isn't down for a long time. Because again, you know, if it's again, just throwing months out there, but if there is an extension to the stamp duty holiday, if that extension to the stamp duty holiday ends in July or ends in October, and then by November, December, you know, mainstream media have decided to start purporting that everybody in the UK has been vaccinated, which we all know is going to be a lie. But if they start purporting that at the end of the year and people start believing that, probably by Q1, Q2 latest of 2022, you will see the market back to normal, because it won't take 3 to 6 months for people to feel like, oh, there's normality. So I think it's a very strong point you've raised about the vaccinations. And again, something I didn't necessarily think about as being a key catalyst to the narrative around normality being achieved. So again, thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts, Yogesh?
That might. Yeah, so it's very interesting discussion. One more thing is there's something, obviously, you know, about herd immunity.
Herd immunity, yes.
60, 70% people.
Yep.
It doesn't matter about the rest. You still reduce.
You've achieved immunity for the whole herd, for everyone. Yeah.
So I think even if there's a large proportion who don't want it, I think you'll still achieve the same outcome.
You see, I'd say this. I think it's great you're saying that, Yogesh. But again, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what the talk is in the medical circles. But I would say the challenge with that is herd immunity is not a concept that mainstream media in any way, shape or form are trying to promote. So the problem with people like you and I is we understand what herd immunity is. We understand that if you have 3 people in the room and there's a virus in the room and 2 of those people are vaccinated, then by virtue of the fact that there's a herd of 3 and 2 are vaccinated, none of those 3 will end up with the virus, due to the fact that 2 of the people out of the 3 will never end up with the virus. But the problem, as I've mentioned, is people aren't saying that. You know, the mainstream media is not pushing that narrative, and they'll never push that narrative because their agenda isn't for herd immunity to be the way that we as a nation become immune. Their agenda is for everyone to receive a vaccination in order for us to become immune, if that makes sense. So again, that might change. It might change closer to the point where they get and they realize, look, not everybody's going to do this. And because not everybody's going to do this, now let's start using real medical terminology like herd immunity and explaining to people you don't all need to be vaccinated. But, you know, when you've got politicians, you know, crying on the TV because of how emotional they are about someone getting vaccinated, and saying, you know, we need this for the nation, etc., and all of this rhetoric, you know, that's not, look, guys, we need X amount of people to do this. You know, when you're going to war, for example, if the country's going to war with another nation, you know, it's one thing to say, look, everybody needs to come and go to war. It's another thing saying, look, we need an army, a full solid army of X amount of people, 100,000 people, 400,000 people, 900,000 people, whatever your number is. And if you're interested in this, nominate yourself as one of the 900,000. We'll give everybody a ticket and we'll know we've got 900,000. Whereas what we're doing in the UK right now is saying it's one size fits all. Everybody has to stay at home. It's lockdown indefinitely. It's one size fits all. Everybody has to wear a mask regardless of your situation. Oh, unless you've got medical exemption. And the challenge with that is it actually breeds hatred, in my opinion, between us all. Because if someone goes into the shopping center now without a mask, they're looked upon by some people as, why are you not wearing a mask? When someone isn't going to go out of their way and actually ask them and have a conversation with them, a legitimate, intelligent conversation with them, like, oh, how comes you're not wearing a mask? Oh, well, I don't believe the rhetoric of the news. Or, oh, you know what, I have a health issue, which means if I wear the mask, I become claustrophobic, or whatever it is. We're not even getting to that point. And the problem with that is that goes back to what I was saying this channel is here for in the first place. We're not having intelligent discourse and conversation. This is why someone like yourself studies medicine and becomes a doctor, so you can utilize your intelligence for the betterment of society. This is the reason why someone like myself, I studied 4 degrees so I can utilize my intelligence for the betterment of society. But unfortunately, we live in a world where the smartest person doesn't get the job. Sometimes it's friends and family who get the job, and we end up in a predicament like we're in currently. Over to you, Yogesh. At that point, over to you.
I'm just saying that's so true, and there's so much psychology in this. But I'm going to remember what you said. It's the perception that's what matters, not the reality. I have to remember that. That's very interesting.
And that's
perception of what's in the news.
Yeah, and I'll say it's sad. Okay, I don't say this stuff, guys. Again, I hope you understand this. Please hear what I'm saying with the context. I do not say half of the things I say on this channel because I agree with them. I say half of the things I say on this channel because they seem to be facts from statistical data and information we can take and glean from the market. History tells us that psychological perception of a nation determines its market. That's what history tells us. Okay, economics, when people go and study economics, what do they get taught to study? They get taught to study herd mentality. They get taught to study what many people do, the actions many people take. When this happens, what do other people do? One of the things I used to study in my first degree was OR, which stands for operational research. When you study operational research, you have things like queuing theory. Queuing theory is when you look at the maths of when you walk into a place, which queue do you stand in? Even though this queue's got more people, you can see that cashier is going through those people really quick because that cashier is really on it. Is that going to be a better queue to stand in than this queue with one person where the cashier clearly is taking ages to serve the one person? Now, when you go deep into things like operational research, you start looking at exactly what we're talking about. You start looking at, if I do this, what do 100,000 people do who live in this area? And this is sometimes the problem, that people who understand this stuff and who know this stuff use this stuff to their advantage. And the normal layperson, the normal human being who just wants to become financially free, who just wants to work their little job, who just wants to build a few property assets, they're oblivious to this stuff. And unless they're having a conversation like this, unless they're jumping on a show like this, unless they're engaging with people like you and I, they're not going to have this conversation. They're not going to think about this stuff, and things are going to happen to them, and they're going to be like, why did that happen to me? So again, I'm not saying it because it's something I agree with, but I'm saying it because it's something that we can see as a fact. A market is dictated a lot of the time by the perception of what's taking place. And if that perception is shaped massively by mainstream media, who may be lying, then that's what happens. So guys, I guess for me, what I'm going to conclude on this, or share on this in conclusion, is I want to encourage you guys to do the same thing I've been encouraging you to do since last year, March, when we started this show, which is go and get adequate information. Go and find out your resources and where you're getting this information from, and scrutinize it, check it, fact check it, second check it, double check it, check it in a tertiary fashion. Just check your sources, and check why you're believing what you're believing. Yogesh, anything else from you before we go back to the show?
I posted one more question in the chat, but only if we have time.
All right, cool.
It's been really enlightening, and you've been given really superb, thorough answers, so I really appreciate it.
Most welcome, Yogesh. This is what we do, and it's great to have you on the show again, and also on the phone line. Guys, I hope you guys are getting value from this insight. Yogesh is telling me that he's really getting value from the fact that I'm breaking down these answers to this level of extent. So guys, let me know by hitting that like button, pressing subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and side by side with all of that, hit the bell notification and let the YouTube world know that you want this content to be shared with even more people. Now, if you want to take an even further step, you know what you can do? Share the video. Even though we're coming to the end of the show, share the video so people can see the last 5-10 minutes, be live with us, or they can even go back and watch the replay. So Yogesh, again, thank you for calling in. Guys, phone lines just closed down, but again, we're still in the chat. We're still able to connect with you in any way on the chat if you guys want that. So like I said, hit that like button, press subscribe, and also hit the bell notification so you can be kept up to date every single time we go live on the video. So let's jump into the chat. Let's see what else is being said. Now, I have Yogesh said he asked another question in the chat. I've got Yogesh saying yes. I've got Yogesh saying 10 stars to all answers. I got KTR saying 10 stars. Thank you, KTR, for your comment. All right, Yogesh says, if there's time, do you believe in investing in investment ISAs? Okay, this one is a bit of a challenging question because it will take a little bit of time to share the context before answering, but I can give you a simple snippet answer on that. And Yogesh also says 20 stars for the answer. Thank you. Most welcome, Yogesh. All right, so let's look at this a little bit. So Yogesh is asking, do I believe in investing in investment ISAs? The answer to that is yes. Okay, I believe in investing. I believe in investing in anything with the right return on investment, which your tolerance level allows you to get involved in. My concern / challenge with investment ISAs, in my opinion, is many of them, for me, don't generate the kind of return that I think is reasonable for someone with my level of appetite in terms of risk and in terms of return. Now, one thing I do think investment ISAs maybe are really good for is children. If you've got children in your household and you obviously don't have them able to actively invest, you don't have them able to actively choose stocks that they want to invest in, or actively choose cryptocurrencies they want to invest in, or actively choose properties that they can buy, that might be a great shield or location to place their funds, in my opinion. But if you're the kind of person who is active as an investor yourself, you've got the power to basically make things happen and to choose things and you know, to move forward in terms of your property investing, I would say that you should probably, in my opinion, again, it's just my opinion, I would say I'd probably stay away from them. But again, that's just my view. That's just my view. Not telling anyone to have the same view, not telling anyone that they have to follow that, but they're just some of my thoughts. They're just some of my thoughts. All right, guys, I hope you guys are getting value. We've already shared about the news from Croydon newspaper. Guys, that stuff was hard hitting, in my opinion. What I want to do is I want to encourage you, if you're new to this channel, if this is your first time connecting with the channel or your first time on this stream, again, I've said it so many times, hit the like button, press subscribe, be a part of our community. But side by side with all of that, what I want to really encourage you to do is go and get this free resource. We created this resource just for you. This is the 7 best books for your property investing success. The reason we created this resource is to help you move further, faster in your property investing journey. In this resource, I break down the 7 best books that you should be reading in order to understand how to creatively generate revenue in your property investing journey. There are books in here, resources in here, both audio books, physical books, and also ebooks, which you can pick up in order for you, from a beginner, to understand how you can do things right from the beginning of your property investing journey. But equally, there's a number of resources in here for people that are more experienced in their property investing journey, where they can learn how they can actually level up by utilizing automation and a bunch of other keys, which I really only ever share when I'm working with my 6-month and 12-month coaching clients. So again, if you haven't gone and got that resource, get that resource. Link is right here, impactproperties.co.uk/book list. I'll say it again, impactproperties.co.uk/book list. And one more time for the people who are right at the back, impactproperties.co.uk/book list. Go get that resource and utilize it to the best of your ability. Now, with all that being said, what I would love for you guys to do is let me know in the chat what has been your key takeaway from today's show. What was the real thing that stood out for you in today's show? What nugget did you take away from today's show? What are you going to share with other people as a result of today's show? And who are you going to share this show with because of today's show? And as I say that, what I also want to encourage you to do is go and get registered to our upcoming masterclass. Every single Monday, we run a masterclass helping you understand how you can take advantage in this current climate and win. And you can get onto that registration page by going to www.impactproperties.co.uk/masterclass. That's impactproperties.co.uk/masterclass. And one more time for the people right at the back, that's impactproperties.co.uk masterclass. Guys, I'm looking so much forward to being with you guys on Monday to help you move further faster as I talk to you on that masterclass about how you can take advantage in this current climate and win in your property investing journey. With all that being said, this is episode 46. I'm Samuel. I Can Win, It Can Win. It's been a great show. Happy investing. See you on the next one.